Well, hi everyone. Welcome back to RTI Speed Center, Speed Tips with Bob and Chad. Tonight we're going to talk about numerous things. Of course, hopefully a lot of things that you guys want to talk about. Um, how's everything been going at Wehrs Machine in Bangor, Wisconsin, Chad?
We're doing good. Yeah, we've been busy. We're in the final stages of our 2021 catalog, so we're really excited. That's supposed to go to print Wednesday, I believe. So if you need a copy of our catalog, if you're not on our mailing list, just give us a call or send us a Facebook message or an email or something with your address, so we can get you one in the mail. We'll be sending them out here probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks. So excited to have that wrapped up for 2021. Got a lot of new products in there that some we've been debuting here on our show, and we're really excited for next year.
Well, awesome. I know some of the products that we've talked about, your load machine and some of those other things. I'm excited to see, can't wait to see that catalog, see what the front cover brings this year.
It's a pretty cool front cover.
Pretty cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, I'll wait till it's printed and then you can send me a picture. So we've had once again, another real busy week. I think the guys are all looking forward to the fact that we're not going to be open Friday. I'm going to let those guys go spend some money on Black Friday or take their wives and children wherever they might want to take them, or they might just sit home and watch whatever's on TV. Whatever they decide to do, that's up to them. They're going to get the day off to spend some time with their family. Now, of course, Rocky, he'll probably work. I think it might have something to do with having a new baby at home where, it might be something they need to do at work. But so those guys have been working hard. I mean, the phone's been ringing. Yeah, I mean, I'm quite surprised. This off season has just been. I mean, if the year to come is anything related to the off season, I'm pretty excited already because it's been amazing. I mean, the amount of stuff that's going on. Last weekend, some of the boys raced in Arizona, and Bob Harris drove his new 2021 GRT by BHE with the new style front end on it to a victory down there. I think he had a second. I don't know. He raced 3 nights. I don't remember how the one night went, but I know he got a first and a second. So that was pretty awesome. Likes the car. Says the car's really fast. I told him that he was going to have to free it up because that's just these cars. People tend to just over tighten them. I mean, that's just a characteristic. And the first night he was a little bit too snug, and so we told him some things to do, and it sounded like it must have worked out pretty good. I didn't actually get a chance to talk to him. He called this morning, but I missed his call, and then Bobby talked to him. But sounds like he was good, so that was great. Other than that, we're just talking about new stuff. What about the new front end? Well, we finally went on our sport mod. We've always used the Pinto spindles and the front end that I've had years and years of success with, and it works very well. And this year we just decided, watching some of the other competitors and stuff, that we should maybe join the bandwagon and go to the two-piece metric spindle. And once again, it requires quite a bit different setup, actually. Young Mr. Malacote ran his at Marshalltown, and he's run a few races since then. So we've kind of learned a little bit with him, and then working with Bo this weekend via phone worked out pretty good. So that's basically what it is. Pretty much if you've got our front end on the existing BHE GRT cars, all you have to do is change spindles, hubs, and rotors, and then some ball joints. And so, no, I've not, Ryan, I've not actually tried the AMC spindle. It's not actually legal in IMCA, so we haven't actually experimented with it. I know I've talked to some guys that have, and they really like it. It seems to be working really well for them. But like I said, it's not legal in IMCA, and most, 85% of the cars we build run IMCA, either modified or sport mod. Oh yeah, Robbie wants to thank you, Chad, for the T-shirt last year. He's coming out of retirement next year after a 20-year hiatus, and gave my wife my Christmas list this week. And just so you know, aha, what a guy! Way to go, Robbie. Glad that hopefully we've all made your list. I know Wehrs Machine probably has, for that nice gift of that T-shirt. So I'm quite sure Chad appreciates that.
Yeah, I upsold him. He won the hat, but I gave him the option of a T-shirt. Took the T-shirt.
Oh, gotcha. My whole list was, yep, from the BHE website. Way to go, Robbie. I appreciate that. I like that alphabetical order that you put that stuff in there. Just saying. I mean, I just wanted to bring that to your attention. One of the things that we're going to talk about, we're coming up on a Black Friday, so of course we kind of think that it's just a great idea to do some Black Friday specials. So one of the things, or a few of the things that we've got, is back on your maintenance. And any of you guys that ever come to one of the schools, I'll guarantee you, when you leave the school, that is one word you'll be able to pronounce backwards, forwards, and talk about thoroughly all the way home, because I mentioned that probably 150 times throughout the whole class, that maintenance thing. Maintenance is what makes the races, gets you in the finish line, gets you to the checkered flag. So anyway, we're going to talk about our regular maintenance throughout the time. Throughout the winter here. And so we've got a package that gives you all new steering components, new center link, new Wehrs tie rods, and a new idler arm. So those of you, if you don't have spare stuff, this is the great time to take the stuff off your car, and if it's still in pretty good shape, put new on it and spend your money so you have some spares for next year. So that's one of the things that we've got coming up. We got a spindle, what we call our spindle care kit. What it is a digital angle finder. And of course, this is a backlit one. There's nothing worse than having a digital angle finder that doesn't have a light in it, because usually you're up underneath the 4 bars on a rear suspension without a light, and so it's pretty nice to have that backlit. And this thing, you can use this. It doesn't necessarily need to be for spindles, but you can use it for all that. Plus the fact that it also comes, the care package comes with the Wehrs spindle checker, which, as you can see, there's a flat spot on that spindle checker. So you can use that to see the degrees of your spindle, and once again, you can see if your spindle is bent. Pardon me, but as an example, and we just painted, this was one of the first prototypes, and we painted it blue just for the BHE colors. But as you can see, there's a little bit of discrepancy here in the spindle. Without that spindle checker, you wouldn't actually know that. In my opinion, this is bent enough that the eyeball should have been able to see it, but it doesn't matter. Then, when you find that you got a bent spindle, now the new Wehrs ball joint remover is available so that you can take it apart without using a hammer and beating the heck out of the spindle and making all kinds of noise and swing and miss and hit the spring or whatever, the shock or whatever you're not taking apart. So these two things are a care package that's going to be on Friday. Radiator screens. Excellent time of the year to buy these new trick radiator screens. We have them in multiple colors. The colors, the powder coat color is $10 more than the regular one. If you want just a standard aluminum one, we have those too. Otherwise, we have multiple colors. Now, I'm not mentioning any prices here, and that's kind of by design, because you need to go to our website on Friday because they're Black Friday specials. They're not specials today. However, we're going to carry those special prices through Small Business Saturday. That only makes sense. And then we're going to carry them through
Cyber Monday.
Cyber Monday. So it all works for you guys, but you're not going to find out till Friday. Next thing on the list, we have our DVDs. We've got 3 different classes from last year that are on DVD format. Excellent gift, excellent Christmas present, very good. The online schools, and we got our t-shirts. We have some Harris Clash t-shirts that are on sale for quite a reduced price. Then we have the Race Tech Info shirts that are at a reduced price. Another good gift. This stuff here would be excellent stocking stuffers because they'd fit in that stocking. And then with the online sales, anybody that spends over $100 is going to get a free BHE t-shirt. So you could end up buying a couple t-shirts and buying some of these other little gifts or whatever and end up with another t-shirt for free. So once again, those are type of things to think about. All right, we've got some questions up. Let's get back to the questions. Ryan mentioned the fact that the spindle checker saved me a ton this time of the year, this time last year. It's amazing, you know, how simple that thing works. And the thing with that deal is, and I should actually let Chad talk about it because he's actually the one that designed it, but I'm actually the one that uses it. So it's pretty slick. You screw that thing on there, let this thing just falls down, and all of a sudden that point is supposed to be in the center of this lower ball joint. However, it's 3/4 of an inch off. Now, of course, I always tell everybody in the class with the pinto stuff, you measure from the top of the spindle to the bottom of the spindle, and it's supposed to be 7 5/8 of an inch. Well, that isn't 7 5/8 of an inch, which this particular one is 7 7/8. So what it means is it has gotten spread, in which this part up here, I'm quite sure, is where this particular spindle is actually bent at. Very seldom you ever see anything get bent down here. Once in a while, it'll actually bend this out here, but most generally, these bend in this area right here. So anyway, that's kind of best money you spend. I appreciate that, Jamie, because I tell you what, they're slick. And you're the mathematician. Regular price, what are these, 30 bucks?
30, yep.
Yep. So another tool. All of these tools should be in your toolbox at the racetrack because you'll be able to use these tools quite a bit. So Mama, if you're listening, here is a good gift idea. And it's www.bobharrisent.com. Friday. They will be on at 12:01 Friday morning. Right, Garrett? Garrett shaking his head yes. Awesome. IMCA Sport Mod, straight up or down or angled? Well, Matt, when you've got a 5-inch spoiler, I truly believe it wouldn't be a great idea to have it straight up and down. I know a lot of the guys with a 2-inch spoiler run it straight up and down, but the 5-inch spoiler, you know, I still think it needs to have a little bit of angle on it so that it kind of helps direct that air coming off the back, and before it comes over and drops down behind the car, it's a little bit further behind the car. So in my opinion, I think it would have too much drag with a 5-inch spoiler straight up and down. I don't think the car would handle as smoothly in the middle of the corner. What's your opinion, Chad?
Yeah, I don't think you want it to be straight up and down here.
I mean, that would be almost like a brake.
Yeah.
In a sense. Ryan's got a question for you, Chad. If you could come up with some sort of ball valve system for removing radiator hoses without losing all of its coolant, I'm sure racers would buy them.
That's a pretty solid idea.
That actually is a good idea.
Those would be probably fairly expensive, but they would be cool. So I'll put that on the back burner. One thing I did when I was back in the day when I was a crew chief is, occasionally we blew an engine or whatever, and we had to change the engine in a hurry. So I always took my radiators and welded a -8 AN fitting right at the bottom of the radiator, so that when it came time to get the hoses off and get the radiator out and the engine out really fast, it was pointed towards the ground. So you just take a -8 AN wrench, bust it loose, spin it off, and the hot coolant is going away from you, and then you can start ripping that engine out immediately. So that's a little tip from back in the day, what I used to do to the radiators. I tried to get AFCO Ben to just install them on every radiator, but he don't listen. So,
well, sure sounds like a good idea to me. I do know that's one of those things that are hot and you don't necessarily want to mess with. So if there's some way you could alleviate that, that would be great. Jeffrey's got a question. Pull bar angle on a B-mod. I'm a drive-in deeper pivot and go driver on small tracks, black slick, trying to find forward bite. Well, I still believe in the fact that we have to not lose sight of the fact that we're talking about forward bite here, which means when you get on the throttle, you want the car to hook up and go forward. However, we can't forget about the fact that it's all about corner entry. You could put a bunch of angle in it. You could put 20, 25 degrees of angle in it. And when you hit the throttle, it's going to pick up and drive forward. Problem is, when you get too much angle in the pull bar, it can make the car too free getting in. And that's the key, is the fact of we need side bite. And a lot of times, if we fix the side bite issue getting into the corner and fix corner entry, you will be surprised at how much more forward traction that you actually have. And especially with that type of driving style, you're probably, there's a chance that you're setting the car up a little snug. Well, it might be a situation where freeing the car up a little bit might help it. One thing that in answer to your actual question, I run 15 degrees. I'm not a big believer in that. And like we talked about last week, I run about, lost my chain of thought here. I run about a 28-inch bar. So that being said, the thing that I have actually found that can help or hurt you is moving that pull bar right to left. Say if you're a dead center and your car's good getting in, you could move that slightly to the left. Now, if you're an IMCA car, you can only be 1 inch to the left of center, but that still is a 2-inch swing on a drive shaft. You can be 1 inch to the right or 1 inch to the left of center of that drive shaft. So that 2 inches of movement from side to side is huge on that deal. So, for the guy that likes the car a little bit free getting in, but wants it to gas up a little bit more, try moving that bar to the left. 1 inch will make a difference. How do you square the steering up on a metric chassis with a stock drag link? Well, we do the same thing on a metric car as what we would do, Barry, on our regular Chevelle. We measure, this is basically my options here. We measure from the center of the center link arm on the pitman, on the idler arm, to where it's actually mounted on the pitman arm. And then we measure from the center of the pitman arm on the drag link side to the center of here. and that's an X. And what we want to do is we want to make sure that those 2 points are equal. So whether it's 25 and a quarter or 24 and a quarter or whatever, that's kind of how we move it. Because that way then, as the steering turns right to left, you'll have equal left to right. Now, some guys tend to try to cheat that a little bit and turn it so that it'll turn a little further to the right. But in this day and age, if you have to turn further to the right, you're out to lunch to begin with. I mean, the car is way too free, and you're going to have no bite coming off. And these cars, you need to run them a little bit tailed out, but not like what. If you need more steering, that's not what you need. New to the A mods, I see a lot of guys using limiters on the front end. What's the advantage? Well, the chain limiter on the left front, and even on the right front, the chain limiter on the left front, what it does is it limits, of course, the travel of the A-frame. And what we have found that if the car needs a little bit more traction, sometimes shortening that limiter up on the left front gets the car to the point where it doesn't go to the right rear as much. It starts to roll to the right rear. You get the side bite that you need, but then instead of keep rolling, it rolls to the left rear, which in turn is transferring weight back to that left rear and gives the car a little bit more traction. Or in the opposite situation, what you can do is you can actually lengthen it to get more roll on the right rear in a situation where you need more feel on the right rear. The right front, pretty much what we use, and when we can run a limiter on the right front, what that basically does is it just limits the amount of up travel that the right front spring is. So in other words, you can actually set that thing so that it's at ride height. Your right front's never really going to try to come above ride height. And so we can take and make that useful by preloading the left or the right front spring against the chain using our load stick, so we know exactly what we're doing, and that will help the car so you can get an idea of a load number for another situation or another scenario at some point. Back to the pull bar. I run a B mod. We all know you run downhill angle. What will the car do if you tried positive angle upward in the chassis? Well, it's not going to want to try to pull the load down on the rear tires. It's going to want to try to lift the load off of it would tighten you up on corner entry, but once you're on the throttle, I'm afraid you wouldn't have any load pulling on the pull bar. On our sport mod, springs are 500 left front, 550 right front, 200 left rear, and 225 right rear. I'm a 365-pound driver, and left front spring has a lot of load or is really compressed after setup, and I'm running out of weight jack bolt. What would you recommend? A stiffer left front spring? Well, in that situation, because your left side weight maybe is a little bit higher, what a stiffer spring will do, and I'm not saying that you need this, but what it will do is it will help load that left front, keeps the car a little bit tighter getting into the corner. So, with a lot of load on that left front, what it can do is actually the car will drive down in the corner, and when you go to lift just a little bit, it falls on the left front and unloads the right rear. So a stiffer right or left front spring just keeps that from falling so fast. So that's a definite idea. If you have some weight molded on the car, I would urge you to try to move it a little bit to the to the right if you can, kind of cut down some of that left side weight as much as possible. Usually on a heavier driver, we have more trouble with the car getting on the right front, so we end up having to put like some weight up on that roll cage post to try to get the car over on the right front to compensate for that. But anyway, that's one suggestion. So is one tie rod longer than the other one? Well, they shouldn't be. No, These are the same exact tie rod lengths. It's just this one has got a bend in it so that when the car rolls over on the right front, you're not hitting it against the frame and causing the car to drive into a serious push and possibly hit the fence. Can you talk a little bit more about what moving the pull bar left and right does to the car? Well, the moving it to the left or to the right, either one, what it does, anytime you move your traction device, which is your pull bar, whichever wheel you move it closer to, it's going to try to traction that wheel up a little bit more. So in other words, say for example, we've got a car that's laying on the right rear and it just kind of seems to want to lay over there. You can move the pull bar an inch to the right side of the car, and what it does is it's actually trying to influence that right tire a little bit more, and it won't actually let the car roll over there as much. It actually will pin that right rear tire. Now you say, well, why would I want to pin that tire? Well, if the car's constantly rolling over on the right rear, it's not necessarily loading the tire. The suspension could be absorbing it and allowing the car to just fall over there without actually loading the tire. Well, what we want to do is we want to try to load the tire, keep the car from falling over there, and help the balance. Same thing with to the left, and I'm normally not a huge fan of moving it to the left. But like if you're running an open motor sport mod and your conditions tend to be a little bit slicker, it might not be a bad thing to do, because if we move it closer to the left tire, when we accelerate, it's going to try to transfer load to that left tire more than it does the right tire. But even though you would think 1 inch wouldn't make that much difference, you would be surprised at how much it does. Now with the normal crate motor, I tend to like to run mine an inch to the right from center. I think it just helps the car a little bit better. What shock for the pull bar? IMCA mod with an open motor, 600 horsepower. Dan, I got another question before I answer that. What is your pull bar? It all depends on the actual pull bar that you're running, on what shock we would run on the pull bar shock would be. Travis, we're not racing again until January, but all new tires all tires are pretty new, IMCA Sport Mod. Should we simply wrap them or put them in some kind of chemical on them before wrap? Well, absolutely not chemical. That would be like taking a sponge and putting some lacquer thinner on it and then opening it up in a week and see what happened to the sponge. You definitely want to wrap them. I recommend wrap them in those big black garbage bags, and you want to seal them. Squeeze as much of the air out of that bag as you can and seal it. However, you want to try to store them, and I don't want to get in any trouble with mom here, but my tires would be in an environment that never gets below 50 degrees, and they'll be just as, if you seal them from the air so that the oil can't dry out, and you keep them in a heated environment, those tires will be great right off the bat at the beginning of the year. Be no problem. If you don't do anything with them, they will become your tires that you're going to want to run for when they have practice night at the racetrack, because they're not going to be as crisp and good as a brand new tire.
Yeah, same thing with your pull bar pucks. If you got relatively fresh pull bar pucks, you should probably take the preload off and make sure that the pull bar is stored inside in the warm also. We don't want that out in the freezing temperatures. Yeah,
anything that's made out of any type of plastic, rubber, or whatever, temperature is not good. And we actually tell people, even their shock absorbers, they need to be stored in a controlled environment, because there's a rubber O-ring in that separator piston in the shock. Well, we've had situations where we've rebuilt shocks for a customer towards the end of the year. He goes to the first race, and his car handles like crap, and he doesn't understand what's wrong. Come to find out he's got a bad shock. Well, those are the guys that leave their shocks in their trailer, and we have a really rough winter where we have some days that get down into the below zero for a period of time. Well, what happens to an O-ring or what happens to any type of rubber, when it gets cold, it gets brittle and it shrivels up. Well, then if that shock was, say, loaded with 175 pounds of pressure, that gas is going to go into the oil, and now all of a sudden you've got a big sponge for a shock absorber. Right rear two-link angle, change heat to feature, heavy to black slick. Jeffrey, I actually run my left rear pull bar or my left rear trailing arm. I start out with it in the neighborhood of about 25 degrees static, and I leave it there. I tune the car around it. If the car's a little too tight, I put more stagger in it or whatever. But the biggest thing that we tell our customers is on our right side trailing arm mounts on the frame, there's 6 holes. And we tell them that basically all they need is hole 3 and hole 4. Now, if the racetrack, say, it rained all day and the promoter still got the race in, so the racetrack's kind of spongy and pretty grippy, what that'll do, you could go up to 4, which is going to give you about a 12-degree angle on that right side. It's going to put more steer in the car. It's going to help the car come up off the corner a whole lot better because you're loading and putting steer in that right rear tire. As the race goes slick, we tend to drop that angle down to hole 3 is where we normally go if it's super, super slick. And that still is right at about a 4-degree angle. I never run on a two-link car, I never run the right rear any lower than that. If you try running it lower than that, what happens is it really loads that right rear tire with side bite, because now the frames, you're not pushing up on the frame, you're trying to go straight forward, and it makes the car too tight. You take steer out of it and the car won't turn. And the biggest thing that people make a mistake on a dry racetrack, they tighten their cars up too much. A lot of times I'll actually run the car almost as free on a slick racetrack as I would on a heavy racetrack. My times are going to slow down, so my corner entry is going to be much slower, but I still need the steer to make the car not try to get too tight and shove the nose. Oh, good point, Darren. Don't leave the tires dirty either. If you're going to store those tires, I'd scrub them tires with soap and water to make sure. And I don't even know if I really try to use soap. I would make sure that I didn't use anything that was a real harsh chemical on it. I would just wash them with water and get that dirt off there, let them dry, and then go with that. Thoughts on a 300, 350 right front spring? Would it be limited to travel before coil binding, simulate a progressive right front feel? Well, Ryan, is definitely going to simulate right front feel, because when it goes coil bound, it's going to be rock solid. I have never run anything less than that. I've talked to some guys that have a little bit, but that's pretty soft on a 2,500 pound car. 450 is about the lightest I ever really go with, but I'm not saying you couldn't try it. It's definitely worth trying. But that's pretty soft. What's a good starting neutral starting point for the Panhard bar, chassis side and frame side for sport mod? Well, I've always used the rule of thumb that on the chassis side, I'd like to see the Panhard bar mounting place be about an inch above the housing. On the rear end side, I would like to have it be about a half to an inch below the housing. So that's pretty much going to put you in that neighborhood of that 10-ish degree part. But then you can always, and I don't actually tune the car a lot on the chassis side of it. If we do make a Panhard bar change, we make a change on the rear end side. Excuse me, Andrew, before I get to that one.
Bob needs a break. We're going to talk about my Black Friday.
Let's go for it. I forgot about that. Sorry, Chad.
So Wehrs Machine, we got a code for 10% off. So it's pretty simple. It's BF Black Friday 10. So 10% off the website orders Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, all the way through Cyber Monday. So 10% off everything.
Now, is that 10% like off dealer price too
No.
then? Oh, dang. I was going to be fixing my Wehrs orders here this weekend.
We'll negotiate percentages off with volume discount.
That's okay. I'm just joking. Just joking. That's a pretty good deal. Load stick, a guy'd save $45.
Yeah.
That's a dang good deal. So all of you heard it. Make your Wehrs orders this weekend, starting on Friday and going through Monday. That's a pretty good deal. Andrew, I run an IMCA AMOD. Can you go into detail about running spacers? I would like to know when to change them from a 1-inch to something else. What does it do on the left rear? Well, the biggest key, Andrew, the thing that you got to look at is the tracking pattern. So in other words, when I look at, first of all, when I look at any race car, I always look how the left rear tracks the left front and how the right rear tracks the right front. If you look from behind the car, and this is kind of a secret too, if Joe in the 12H car is super fast, here's a couple things that I use as a chassis builder so I can figure out what they're doing. First of all, I kind of walk by the car, and if they're setting and staging, most generally they got the wheels straight. So you can see if the left rear is flush, right rear is in, or whatever. The other thing that you want to know is how much lead or trail the car's got in it. Make sure you try to get around them when they get ready to unload the car. Because when it comes off the trailer, it's either going to go to the right. If it goes to the right, that means it's got lead in it. And if it goes to the left, that means it's got trail in it. Two little tidbits there I use to kind of assess some of the competition. I'm not done answering the question. The spacer, we use wheel spacers a lot, but as a rule of thumb, I try to line my left side tires so that they track and align perfectly. And then my right side tires, in a perfect world, I like to see my right rear inside the right front about 1.5 inches. Now, say for example, I've got my left rear, what I do is I have a 3-inch wheel with a 1-inch spacer. If that car is too snug in the middle of the corner, sometimes you can change, and what I actually do is I use multiple 1/2-inch spacers. That car, you can actually take that spacer, one of the 1/2-inch spacers out of that left rear and stick it on the right rear. Now, I just moved my driving wheels a 1/2 inch to the right. So that's telling me, it's kind of like that grocery cart thing. It's telling me that I want the car to start turning to the left more. If I move the spacer so that the rear end is to the left of the front end, that's telling me that my drive wheels say that we need to push our leading wheels to the right. So when you want to free up a car, put a spacer on it. The other thing with a right front, if you have a situation where, hey, I don't have time to be changing right front springs, stick a 1/2-inch spacer on that right front wheel. It's going to actually, the driver is going to actually think you did make the spring change. It's going to make the car a little wider, a little bit more stable. A lot of guys like that change. So that's, that's kind of what it does. But on the left rear, the further you move the left rear out, it's going to tell the car that you really want the car to kind of turn to the right, which is going to make the car a little tighter off the corner. Tightening the left rear chain usually is supposed to tighten in the center of the corner. I tightened the chain and made it looser. Did it take drive off the left rear? What's your opinion on that one, Chad?
No, when the track is heavy, you want to shorten the chain because it makes more wedge. So it keeps a higher wedge number, so it makes the car turn in. Right? That's
Yep.
I was always short chain, when it's heavy, long chain when it's slick.
Yeah, and some people do it other than that. I do it just like what Chad says. Um, you know, I will kind of judge the fact on how much the racetrack's slowing down. And if I'm a little concerned about it rolling too much off the left rear, but normally the only time, if you're running like a lot of preload in that left rear spring, that's really the only time you're going to want to try to shorten that chain up, which is just like what Chad said. If you've got a heavy racetrack, what we need to do is we need to put more left rear drive in it and free the right rear up so that the car can actually roll in, turn better, and then the racetrack is a little bit gummy. It's not 100% tractioned up, so you've got that left rear to drive you up off the corner. The other key factor on this chain thing that we forget about a lot of times is the fact that if we lengthen the chain, it's going to allow us to get more load, or it's going to let us to get more travel on the right front. So once again, on a slick racetrack, I would be opposed to tightening that chain up because I think it would make the car loose a little bit getting in, but then I'm afraid it would make it too responsive on the left rear to the point where it's not far enough over on the right front that it could affect the front traction too. So that's just my opinion. Raising the climber mount on the frame on a sport mod. What are the effects of raising it and lowering it? Well, what you're doing, Aaron, is you're actually changing your roll center, but you're also moving it up higher. The theory behind that is a lot of times if you run more angle and you run it higher on the frame, it will help traction a little bit. I can't say that I could actually, of all the tests that I have done, I've not been able to verify that in my mind enough that it really actually does that. But what it does is it, instead of lowering the roll center by dropping it down on the rear end, you're raising the roll center, but you're putting more angle in it. So when it does roll, it won't roll so hard, but it will roll and stick the right rear a little bit better. On the right front, you talk about if you have to put more than 4 turns in the spring, you need to go to a heavier spring. At what point is that? Is that number a ride height number when you're preloading against the chain, short shaft, shock, or what makes all that happen? 3 inches of shock travel. Well, give me a moment here.
That's a lot of variables there. I mean, if you're just getting too much travel and you're burying the right front, you might need a rate more than you need turns, right?
Well, and see, that's kind of where 3 inches of shock travel on the right front, they tend to be, when the car's at its best, that right front needs to be more in the 4-inch range. So what's happening is I think he's got a spring and he's putting loads in it, which is affecting the travel of it's affecting the timing of the travel. You might be better off going to a 25-pound heavier spring and taking that preload out of it. But when you are preloading it, yes, you're either preloading it against the chain or you're preloading it against the shock that has a shorter shaft put in it. You know, it's where they take a 7-inch shock and they put a 6-inch shaft in it or something to that effect. They both work pretty well, but it almost sounds to me like you went past the point of preload because you've made it stiff enough that it's not getting your full inch roll. You're taking some of the roll out of it in the preload itself, because if you're preloading at 4 turns, that's a half an inch anyway. Thoughts on running different wheelbase from the left to the right? Well, Austin, we do that quite a bit, actually. And I'm not going to get into it in too detail because that's very complicated to try to. Josh wants to know if that's 10% off of an Ultra Force Smasher.
Yes, sir.
Holy smokes! You better set your clock and wake up 12:01 on Friday morning so you can place that order. Anyway, thoughts on running a different wheelbase from left to right. Well, you kind of have to understand, first of all, how your car is made. Some cars are made square to the world. So in other words, the rear end is in the car square to the front end, or I should say the front end is put on the car totally square. Some guys build their cars so that they're anywhere from 3/8 to 3/4 of an inch longer on the right side than they are the left side. So you can square your rear end in the car as your chassis manufacturer tells you to do it, and measure the wheelbase, and you're actually going to find that your right wheelbase is slightly longer than your left side, but that's because of the front end. In my opinion, I wouldn't worry about where that front end is much as I would make sure that the rear end is square to the point. Then as the racetrack, I go to the racetrack, I start with square. A lot of times I'll put 1/8 of an inch of trail in it. So in other words, I'll lengthen the right side 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch, depending on how heavy the racetrack is. And then as the night goes on, that's a great adjustment that I use to take some of that out of there. And that helps tighten the car up when you come up off the corner. So I'll go from 1/4 of an inch of lead in the rear end to 1/4 of an inch of trail in the rear end, depending on what the conditions. Chad, does that include pre-order on right front drop spring cups?
Unfortunately, that will not be on the website this weekend. No, sorry.
Yancey's got a question on the newer zero index cage. On the left rear, are you having to run the left side wheelbase longer to compensate for how far it moves forward in the droop when the car is at dynamic, now that the cars are drooping to the left a lot further? See more. Which gives the car more rear steer in dynamic? Yeah, actually, yes, you are.
Yeah, that's most common problem with the zero trend. What we're trying to achieve there is we got less bind in the left rear suspension, so then you're tempted to do things to get more traction, which is let chain out, gives you drive angle, gives your blade in the air, gives you traction, but it also gives you steer. So when you do that, letting out more extension and getting more steer, that can be a problem. So if your standard baseline is 2.5 inches of roll steer, you're going to want to maintain that through your extension. So if you're going to let out chain and travel the roll steer 3 inches and get that rear end all cocked, you're going to run into more problems than you even can imagine. So I think that's one of the most common things with the zero index is you don't really want to steer more. You want to steer the same amount, but you're trying to get more drive angle and get the blade in the air for traction. So the roll steer tends to be an issue. I'm a believer that there is such a thing as way too much roll steer. When you get that rear end all cocked in there and oversteered, and the driver goes to pick up the fuel and that rear end's pointed towards the fence, which way is the car initially going to go? To the fence. So then when the car goes to the fence, what does the driver do? Smashes the fuel to get it to rotate, and then the car is sideways loose off. And all that you remember then is what? I'm loose off. So that roll steer can really be a fine line there. So correct, wheelbase it back, do things to get that end result the same as your standard setup so that you don't oversteer.
It's another one of those situations where if a little bit is good, doesn't mean a little bit more is going to be better. It's
only a few things.
It's a very fine line. You can go over the limit on that, and like Chad just said, you can make the car so that it drives very inconsistent. And it's going to really be dictated by how the driver enters the corner, whether this is going to be a good thing or not such a good thing. What's the right front drop cup doing for the car? We need your drawing, Chad.
I'm going to have a new drawing soon. My engineer Billy's going to make me a spring table drawing.
Awesome. Make sure Billy gets one to me too. I'd appreciate it.
So
All right.
basic spring table. So when the right side is lower than the left side, it rolls over easier. So if them 2 points are level, if you just think about it as your pen level, and if one side is lower, it's going to be harder to roll over the other side. If this side is lower, it's going to roll over real easy. So it's the roll table and the spring table in the car is just how it induces roll.
The right front.
Isn't that what we just said?
So the rear.
Oh,
The right rear?
no, this is the right front.
Oh, same thing. Same in the rear front. Spring table's the same front or back.
Right. Mark, on a sport mod, is it common to have deformation in the left rear spring? Meaning after a couple weeks, the spring doesn't stand up straight. When I take it out of the car, it stands up on the floor, leans. Mark, that's kind of the downside to the sport mod we're in, because what has happened is they require us not to have anything in the spring cup at the top or the spring cup in the bottom that will actually rotate and let that spring actually work in there freely. They've decided that everything needs to be solid. So when the car steers, and like say if you got a whole bunch of trailing arm angle in the left rear and not much in the right rear, when the car steers, that rear end moves forward. But the spring cups can't swivel and let that move forward. What it does, it actually bends that spring. And if you're running a softer spring, it's just basically twisting them up in that whole spring thing. I mean, it's just kind of what you can actually do is take your car and set the rear end on jack stands and put the car on jack stands, and then jack up underneath the seat and watch how that rear end tries to bend in that scenario and what the spring actually looked like. So yeah, it's kind of one of the evils of some of the rules that we have to follow, that it's not necessarily helping out on some of the springs. And it doesn't matter. I've had super expensive springs and I've had less expensive springs. Just we're trying to make the spring do something that it's not capable of doing, because it's trying to go up and down, sideways and back and forth, and it's just not going to be able to do that over a period of time. In a non-IMCA sanctioned B-Mud class, what are the benefits to running swivel cups on the rear end of the housing, and should there be both top and bottom? Well, that actually answers my question by far. If I could swivel those cups in the back, top and bottom, I wouldn't have those spring issues. If my rules allow me to have that stuff pivot, that is a key, because it's going to make the suspension smoother. It's going to be less load on the, I mean, it's going to have a dynamic load that's going to be loading correctly rather than twisting and moving around. And so, yeah, if I could run them, that's a no-brainer. I definitely would.
I'm a little skeptical with both swivel cups on the rear. If that axle gets kind of out of alignment and you got two bearings that are both bent at the same angle, it might try and pop the spring out. So we recommend only one bearing cup. You can run a 5-inch Torrington bearing on one side, but bearing cup on one side. That's what I recommend.
Good idea. Difference between mounting J-bar on the left side of the pinion versus the right side of the pinion. Well, if you move it to the left side of the pinion, once again, it's kind of like our pull bar. Wherever you locate anything on that rear end, wherever it's hooked to the rear end, whichever tire it's closest is the tire that it's going to try to load. So if you move it to the left side, it's going to load that left rear tire and probably gain you some traction off the corner. But it's also going to try to load that left tire getting into the corner, so it's going to take traction away from the right rear. So what's going to happen is the car is going to get super free getting in. Then when you throttle it up, it's going to become a mid-corner push, and the push is probably going to somewhat stay in it because you've got the roll center of your rear end is way too far to the left, and the car is not going to be very balanced. Chain. If you shorten the chain, do you change the bar angle at droop to get back to the degrees that you had shortened it before? Well, that's a good point, Shane. In my opinion, that would be my preference. I wouldn't want to do something to take angle out of the bar, but I would want to regulate the droop. So it just all depends on how your holes are and how your holes are in the chassis. If a guy was to, but a lot of times when you're shortening the chain up, you're actually wanting to take bite out of that left tire and make the right tire.
Yeah, less drive angle in the mud makes it freer too. That's part of shortening the chain when it's heavy.
Correct. Yeah, so I would say that's true. When you talk about a 6-inch shaft and a 7-inch body, is that legal? As of 7:57 tonight, it is. Now, tomorrow, that can change. So, Greg, in your class that you're running, Greg, that's not an issue. But, it could be later. Yes, we're preloading the right front. Okay, how many more questions we got, Garrett?
Few.
No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll address these questions, and we're bumping that 8 o'clock spot here. On a sport mod, what does the most when moving the panhard bar on the chassis or the rear end? Well, anytime you do the rear end, you're doing kind of a 2-to-1 ratio. So if you move it a half an inch on the rear end, you'd almost have to move an inch on the frame to get the same impact. However, you're still dealing with different other issues too. But in answer, that's why a lot of times I don't actually adjust the frame side. If I'm going to put some more panhard bar in it, I adjust it on the rear end side, because what you can do is you can move it a half an inch and it doesn't increase your angle so much. USRA B mod, what are the advantages and disadvantages of running the right rear slider behind the rear end besides in front of the rear end? Well, when you go behind the rear end, keep in mind, even on your B mod, the rear end's still going to walk forward on the left and try to come back on the right. So when you're in that transition and you're gaining pinion angle with the rear end, with it being behind, you actually, when you get off the throttle, it tries to tighten the car up. But then when you get back on the throttle, it gets you tighter in the middle. If you can navigate that from the center or from the beginning of the corner to the middle, it will have more traction off the corner. So on a B mod, as long as you might have to run a little bit stiffer spring or something to get it in through the middle, but it works very well for traction. That's how we used to do it back in 1986, is run with the right rear behind and the front and the left rear in front. What's the softest right front spring people are running on A mods and in a Chevelle stub? Well, we just had a guy ask about 300 and 350. The softest I have ever run on anything that I've worked with a customer is a 400. Opinion on brake floaters on both sides, advantage or just personal preference? Well, what happens, Ryan, is when you have a brake floater, the right side will tighten the car up getting into the corner. The left side, when you get on the brakes, it takes all the traction or all the load to the right front. With it on the right side, it takes it to the right rear. I'm afraid that you might to the point where it would become a little bit trickier to drive. However, back in 1986, we used to run brake floaters on both sides, and that was when we could run a lift bar. So it definitely works. The car is going to be a little bit tighter in certain scenarios. What's better, right front slider or top mount spring when you can only run a 5-inch spring angle? I'd run a slider over anything, unless your rules allow you to run like Chad said that swivel cup with the bearing in it. The car is going to be more driver friendly, possibly with it being on top of the housing, because now it's not working off of the rear end pivoting. It's just holding the rear end up. Where if you go in front or behind, you're also working into the pinion angle movement of the rear end. Whoa. What keeps the car more free on entry? Longer or shorter wheelbase? What keeps the car more free on corner? A longer wheelbase will make the car, if the right side wheelbase is longer, the car will be freer getting into the corner. USRA made the 2020 rules for the right front bump stop can now be any size. Before, we could only run a 1/2-inch stop. What's the effect of this rule change in your opinion? Will we have an advantage running a softer front spring and a taller bump stop to act as a progressive spring?
Let's call RE suspension.
I would call Jason at RE suspension, or I don't remember what he actually said. There's one guy that works with a lot of modified guys down there that works for him. I don't remember. Donnie?
Donnie, yep.
Yeah. I would call Donnie at RE suspensions and tell him that your good buddies, Bob and Chad, said to give him a call.
They got more bump stop options than anybody on the planet.
And those guys have more knowledge about bump stops than anybody I have ever talked to. Okay. Was that our last question? Last question. All right. Well, once again, we're at the end of the show. We're coming up on my favorite time of the year. This is the time of the year where we all have to take a little bit of time, or we should, and give thanks for a lot of the things that we have. 2020 has been a very difficult year for a lot of people. I'm extremely fortunate. It has not been a very difficult year for me. So I'm happy about how everything is going. But the thing about it is no matter what the situation is, you can find happiness in anything. You just have to look at that. And this is the time of the year where, man, I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for my employees, and I'm thankful for my friends. And we can't, with all of this nasty stuff that's going around, we can't possibly forget to thank our healthcare workers, the police departments, the fire departments, the military, and everybody that helps us stay safe. So keep that in mind as we're going into that time of the year where it's a time of the year to be thankful about what we do have and not be as concerned about what we don't have. Just like all of you customers that tune into this show. And of course, I can't not thank my good buddy Chad for helping with the show every week. And it seems like we've been doing this forever.
23 now, huh?
23. Who would have ever thought back in March when we come up with this brilliant idea that this would went over as much as it did. So once again, I thank you guys for tuning in every weekend or every week. Next show we're going to have, I forgot to tell you, we do have our new stocking hats.
Sweet.
Don't forget the things on my list. Next live show will be the 7th. And then we'll follow it up on the 21st. And then the month of January, we'll be doing, I think it's like the 4th or something. Anyway, it'll be every other week now to the 1st of March. So that's kind of a plan. And don't forget about our Black Friday deals. Man, I tell you what, if I was buying one of them machines from Chad, Friday would be the day I'd be buying that thing.
We got them lined up back there, stacked up like cordwood, so we're ready to sell them.
There you go. So anyway, thanks again for tuning in. We appreciate it. Thank you, Chad.
Yeah, thanks, Bob.
You've been put up with me for 23 shows. Can you believe that?
I'm just thankful you bring me along.
Jeez. All right, people. Thanks again. We'll see you in a couple weeks.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yep. Happy Thanksgiving.